Hello everybody, it's FarmSim Guy here, hope you're all doing well. After the interest shown in yesterday's video about TerraFarm, I thought I would jump back in and have a little bit more of an in-depth look at it. I spent the evening digging through it, trying to get my head around all of the things it does, and I had a really fun time playing with it. Had a really good chat with SCF Mod as well on GitHub. Dropped a couple of bugs and queries in there with him. He was very responsive. He's already released an updated version as well with an additional fill type, but we'll come to that in a little while. But for now, let me jump in and let's go through things in a little bit more depth, because literally yesterday I discovered it and had a little bit of a play with it and straight away was hooked. But now I've had a bit more time to play with it, it's even better than I thought it was. So we are using, again, FS Miners Volvos, and his trucks over there. Again, I will put links to those in the description below. But we'll jump in here and we'll pull up the menu, because again, as per last time, you can see there you've got the option to enable TerraFarm. Now what we'll do as well, we'll quickly jump into the menu. So you press Z to jump into the menus, and you've got the option here to enable TerraFarm or disable it. So you can switch it off. If you switch it off here, that switches it off for every vehicle on the map. So there's no way that you can access it if you do it that way. I learned that the hard way. I thought it was a bug. I was quickly corrected by SCF on that. Debug mode obviously turns on or turns off debugging. Now if I go back to the screen, you can see all the dots around the bucket there, and if you move the bucket you can see there's things in there to test. So you can have that on or you can have that off. I'm going to turn it off for the purposes of the video here. Disable discharge here. This basically disables discharge to terrain when TerraFarm machine is used. So basically it won't unload the bucket if you are terraforming, and I'll talk about that in a little while. Fill type stone, and the other option now is dirt. Now I'm going to stay with stone, the only reason being dirt is not a default fill type, so you can't tip it on the ground, and you can't unload it from a trailer if you've put it into a trailer. I can load it into a trailer, and we'll do that right at the very end just to show you how it works, but you can't do anything else with it. So I'm going to leave it on stone, because stone is a known fill type in the game and there's no issues with it. Disable terrain paint. Now that's an option which we'll talk about in a little while. So basically when you're leveling or filling your holes in the ground, you can select different paint layers, but you can also turn that off if you want, and it won't do anything at all. But you've got two options for paint layers. And now if I jump back to the menu here, you've got a mode, two modes at the bottom of the menu there. You've got the mode for basically when you're using the bucket to pick stuff up, and you've got discharge mode, which is when you're using the bucket to unload things. Now in the menu you've got the option there to paint that with different types of paint based on the in-game textures. So I'll show you that in a little while as well. I'm going to leave it on animal mud at the moment because I don't know, it looks quite good in my eyes. And then the second menu here, paint radius, raise lower strength, raise lower radius. These you can adjust all of these: smooth strength, smooth radius, flat strength, flat radius. You can adjust all these how you see fit. I personally, I'm going to leave them as they are for now, but it might be interesting to play around with that in the future. Right, we're going to quickly have a look at the different modes you've got. You've got modes are flattened ground, and if I press X that switches to smooth ground, and if I hit X again it switches to lower ground, and they're the three you've got available for you there. And in discharge mode, which is when you're unloading the bucket, you've got normal, which will dump a pile of stone on the floor. You've got raised ground, which is an interesting one, flattened ground, and smooth ground, and we'll touch on those in a little while. And I'm going to jump in the Volvo digger over there as well and show you how that works. For now though, you've also got paint ground, which will do nothing but repaint it. So what we'll do for now, I'm going to leave it in normal mode and lower ground for digging, and we'll just dig ourselves a bit of a hole because I want to use this as an example of how things work. So there you go, we've already scooped up a load of stone. We'll move that to the side now. Again, doing this with the mouse is quite tricky, and I'm looking forward to maybe trying this with some joysticks or something else. So again, open it up, lower down, scoop things up, move around, and I'll try and dig a decent size hole so you can see what's what. The animation on the bucket, he's also confirmed he's going to look at, again, I'm not sure it's particularly high on the priority list with other big features being worked on. But there we go, we dig down again, scoop it up, move around to here, unload, and you can keep going with this, just make sure everything's out. There we go. Spin around again. Let's get one more out of there, so it's quite a deep hole. There we go. Unload that. Now what we'll do, we'll move this guy out of the way, because we're going to jump into our digger there, our Volvo wheel loader, and we are going to sort things out here. So let's jump in here. TerraFarm is turned on. So what we're going to do now, looking at what we've got available to us, discharge mode, we don't want it to be normal this time, we want it to be raised ground. So what I'll do now, and you can see we've got that paint texture on, what I'll do is I will pick up this dirt that we dug out before. So there we go, a full bucket full there. And we will roll over to the hole in the ground. Now watch this, because what won't happen now is we won't unload it as a fill type anymore, because we've got it set to raise ground. What will happen is it will go into the ground as a fill type. But you see it's emptying from the bucket, but you can see the ground raising up there. So that's quite cool. Now you could, if you wanted to, fill it with gravel, with stones, but actually doing it this way, you get rid of your excess fill type and it goes back into the ground. So let's do a couple more of these, try and fill that hole up as much as possible, and then I'll show you what comes next. There we go, and one more, and you never get this perfect, as you can see there. That pile is slightly higher in one place than it is another. And as you can see, it paints the ground where you're scraping the bucket along, which I like, as it's a nice touch. So again, doesn't feel like it's particularly unrealistic that you're scraping the topsoil and the grass away as you're digging stuff up, which is a nice touch. So I can see I tipped that a little bit far back at the other side. So what I'll do now, tip that in there, and as you can see, what we've got, if I reverse out of the way, is not a particularly good job of filling that hole up. So we've got two peaks and a big gouge in the middle there. But what we can do now is jump back in this, drop the bucket down. Now because the bucket mode is flatten ground, we can change our discharge mode now to something else. So how about we change them both to flatten ground, see how we get on with that. So what happens now is, if I run this over those spikes in the ground, let's try and angle this so you can see what happens. See that? It's lowered down that space. Now it does still pick up gravel. So what we're doing now is emptying that out. If I tip it there, you can see it's adjusting things. Things are getting flattened out. Now we still have a big gap in the middle there, don't we? So it would be nice to kind of sort that out if we can. So there's a little bit of playing around with this. I think the more I use it, the more I'll get used to it. So what you could do now as well is potentially change this to smooth ground. So we could run along here, just get rid of the menu so you can see if anything changes. But again, starts to adjust the ground around you and smooths off that lump in the ground. Now there is quite a big lump in the middle there still, so I'm tempted now to switch back to something like flatten ground, like so. which does fill our bucket up again. And we will try and fill up that gap in the middle there as much as we can. There you go. You can see it starting to work a little bit. Now what we might do here is tip it back up, switch to raise ground a bit, and fill in that gap in the middle. So there we go. That's worked better. And it literally is a case of backwards and forwards, to and fro, until you're at a place where you are happy with things. I'm going to switch it back again now. Try flatten ground. And roll forward. You can see it's lifting the ground up. Getting it into position. Unloading a bit now as well. So I'll keep going with this, put on a little time lapse maybe, and we'll come back when things are looking finished. So there we go. I'm going to turn off the menu there just so you can see. We've got a relatively flat space there. We could play around with it a little bit more, get things sorted a little bit more, but generally that is pretty good. What we could do now, we have got some excess in here. Now the option here would be to unload this onto the ground if you wanted to do it that way, or you could just dump it in a trailer, and I think that's what we'll do. We'll run over here and we will pop it in a trailer, because as we did before, you can take this, take it to the rock sell point, or if you want to, use the lime manufacturing point, and you can unload it in there. So there we go. Now what we would need to do here is switch it back to normal mode for discharge, so B, until we scroll through our options. There we go. Into the truck and complete. And I missed it slightly there, but there we go. Now I did promise you I would show you what the dirt option looked like. So if we go back into the menu, Z, press on this button here, switch this to dirt, and do this, and now we need to change our mode as well. So X to change it to lower ground. And there we go. If I do that, you can see it's adjusting the ground, and you can see we've got a bucket full of dirt. Now, like I said at the start, because this map doesn't have dirt as a fill type, I am now unable to unload that, so you get the error saying this action cannot be performed here. Now SCF has told me that he's already working on fixing that, so in a future release this will work, and hopefully other fill types too, so that's exciting. But it does work if you load it into a trailer. The same issue though with the trailer, you cannot tip the trailer anywhere at the moment, so maybe somebody will come up with a production facility that will take dirt, and that will solve the problem for us there. The other thing where this really works as well, that I was quite enjoying when I was playing before, was switching the mode to flatten ground at the front, and the discharge mode to something like flatten ground as well, or smooth ground. In fact, smooth ground is probably a better one because it doesn't impact the shape of the land so much. But then if you switch a different paint type on, so we've got animal mod on at the moment, let's switch it to something like rock. We can have a little bit of fun here. If I come to the road here, and this is where it starts to get really fun in my eyes, is the potential here for actually creating roads and proper elements to the maps that weren't there before. Yes, we can dig trenches and things like that and put drainage ditches and other such things in, but what about actually, so we're on the road here, what about actually creating your own paths off the main road? So there we go. Yes, it needs a bit of tidying up. Maybe we'll run back and do it the other way, but you know, You can put your own production facilities in here. You can really expand your gameplay with this, which I think is really, really good fun. So, if I do a loop around here, and we can double up the size of the path off the road, you could have some real fun with this. Now, like I said, it doesn't work with too many bits of equipment at the moment, but I'm sure that's going to change quite rapidly based on the interest that was shown in the first vid. So we will keep you posted. I certainly have been thoroughly impressed with this. It's absolutely brilliant. So there we go. We've just created a road. Simple as that. Somebody even asked in the comments, could you use a front loader and a tractor? And yes, you can, because certainly one of the buckets, the Albutt front loader shovel, works with a tractor front loader. So tons of potential there as well to mix it up how you see fit. But this is truly brilliant. Honestly think there is something very special about this, and it's still in its infancy. I can't wait to see how this evolves and develops. So there you go, another little sneak peek at what's to come with TerraFarm, and it's brilliant, totally brilliant. So I'll leave it with you there. I'm sure a lot of you have downloaded this and are having a play with it as we speak, but if that helps you find your way around it a little bit more, I'm glad I could help. So from me, the FarmSim guy, thank you very, very much for watching, as always, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye for now.